Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength. And I guess I'm doing another little, I guess I wouldn't really call this one a vlog. I'm not planning on, taking you through my week. I'm going to post some training videos here in a little bit. But I guess I wanted to do a little update on, I guess, where my training is at. I don't call it personal life stuff, but like decisions for federations and competition future and motivation and just some like general thoughts all around here, kind of outside of the normal like YouTube plan. So, first of all, I've been dealing, I think people are generally aware, been dealing with a little injury, especially since nationals. I've had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. This one I think has been more persistent, I think, than I really would have thought. So the pain that I'm experiencing is at the top of both my squat and my deadlift. Pretty dramatic at times. Get to, the top 10% of the lift and get almost like a stabbing kind of pain up at the top of those lifts. And it's been like pretty manageable in the past. I'd say that I got the pain maybe like 2 years ago initially, and was generally able to manage it, feel it a little bit, get it to go away in a few weeks. But post-nationals, this actually was not the injury that I was dealing with heading into nationals. That at that point, it was some bursitis stuff on my hip, and maybe all of these things are related. But that was really the main thing that prevented me from training well and ultimately impacted my performance there. But since then, this old injury that I've had for like 2-ish years and not really been a big deal has really, really stuck around. And I've tried to approach it fairly directly, and I didn't really expect it to be all that complex really, because it has been resolved fairly easily in the past and just has stuck around. And I felt like I've been super close. I think most people have seen that I've been squatting pretty well. I just recently did a pause squat with 700 pounds like a month ago, 705. I had discomfort there, and that I have been, every training session I've done has had at least some thought put into how I'm moving, how I'm riding, training, all of that around this. Like I'd call myself, 80% or something right now. But it's pretty cool that I'm able to manage it as well as I have and like be very, very strong. And I'm like actively tempoing my ascent. Maybe on that note, so I've been getting some DMs about my free programs that I've put out. I've just been repeating the same block like over and over again, which maybe is up, maybe not. I'll put up my new block, but again, like I'm kind of winging it in a lot of places to manage what the training is available from day to day. My previous block, my squatting on my primary day, was literally a 3x3 at like an RP 7 on squats, and I did a pause single afterwards. Like that was the whole plan. I ran that for like 3 months, and it went pretty well. So now I'm approaching it a little bit differently, kind of trying to take it a little bit lighter as I actively am trying to rehab here. So I started working with Sean Harris. He was already one of my resources in the list of resources, strength training, injury rehab people that I think people should follow. He was already in that list. He owns the gym that I'm training at, so it was a good place to start. And talk to him, and he is pretty confident through his assessment of things that it's a hamstring tendinopathy on my left leg, kind of up inside the hip area, where I feel the pain. I call it my glute. I've been saying glute, hip, whatever. But it's like if you imagine the core of the earth, in my hip, like that's where I get the pain, just kind of right in the very middle there. So through assessments, like pretty clear that left hamstring is a good bit weaker than my right, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Right now, I'm having the most issues deadlifting, significantly more so than what squatting has been. All my hip, like if I were to do stiff legs or conventional deadlifts, those are much, much worse and get painful much easier. And even things that I've been doing, like back extensions, just like general hinge, hamstring stuff, I'm like way, way weaker at those things. So I think it seems reasonable. I think that makes sense. And even like with rehab things, I'm not always I'm not always a big fan of like needing a diagnosis because it doesn't necessarily matter. But especially with something like this that's persisted and getting, some real help from somebody, it influences exercise selection and all of that. So, now I have, I think, a pretty good approach as far as rehab with it and making choices and training around it. And I think things are going better and I feel close. And I guess that kind of brings me to plans for the rest of the year. I'm just not ready to compete. I have a competition. I think I'm still on the roster for a competition here in a couple of weeks. My plan was to do that competition because I've been squatting well, I've been bench pressing well. My plan was to do that competition to get a better total so that I would be in prime time for Raw Nationals and do prime time. But I just don't care. I just don't care about the USAPL right now. I don't care about Raw Nationals really. The meet that I was going to do is just for a better total. I'm not ready. I don't know what I would total. I don't know what I can deadlift like at all. So I can't really do that competition. And then because I'm not going to be in prime time, I don't know that I care about that meet, right? Like there's absolutely some good lifters there, but to battle, from, in like the busy morning sessions or whatever, in a way that I don't know that I would really care a ton if I won. I mean, it would be good, but like I care a ton more about my personal total and all of that than I do like placing at these things really in this moment. So like Raw Nationals itself to me right now, I just don't care what I place. And so it's a lot of work to go to that competition without really feeling like there's exposure. And I'm going to talk about that. That is a big part of the stuff I want to talk about, I guess. Like good exposure, and that there's not a lot of drive for me to, be my best in that moment. And so I'm not going to do Raw Nationals. I have a couple lifters that are going to be there doing it. So hopefully I'll be able to be there and coach and all that and kind of be involved. But yeah, competition schedule for this year, I don't know what I'm looking to do. I'm 100% sure at this point that I will be switching over to Powerlifting America. And I think that's maybe the core of what I'll talk about here in this video is the switch and some of my issues specifically with the USAPL. I mean, I have issues with Powerlifting America and the IPF, as probably everyone does, and there's some annoyance there. But like more directly, I've been, we'll say, impacted and involved with USAPL stuff. And I made some comments. I do want to address some of the stuff that I said on my story, criticizing the president of USAPL and kind of the direction of USAPL. I think in some ways I sort of regret the way that I approached the stuff that I said. What Larry said, the president of USAPL, was that it was in a Facebook group, it was a group for directors, USAPL directors, meet directors. And they were talking about all of the people that are leaving USA Powerlifting for Powerlifting America. And I'll talk about like the draw and my draw over there a little bit. I'll focus on my comments here. And basically what Larry said that annoyed me, and made me a little upset, was that USAPL's current direction is that they are not interested in focusing on the pros and that they need to invest in the people that are directly supporting the USA Powerlifting and the bread and butter, and I think that's the word he used, the bread and butter of the organization, which would be the older people, right, who have been around in the sport a long time and who have contributed a good bit of the sport. They're primarily people who are doing reffing and involved in these meets and like extremely important, this stuff. Also, local level competitors are a huge amount of the whole body of USA Powerlifting. A lot of these people may not even like be involved in social media or follow me or like know the pros really on any level. So when Larry is saying that he wants to focus on the bread and butter and not focus on the pros who have shown the part that annoyed me, the part that made me upset, was that Larry said that the pros have shown no loyalty to the USAPL. And that we're not volunteering our time to spot and load and ref and things like that. And that the other people are what is growing the sport. So I was annoyed and upset about that. And I think I probably said some things that like, maybe I could have phrased a bit better, because like absolutely 100% the people who are involved and do straight up volunteer for free oftentimes, and maybe that's some of the issue, but volunteer their time to help in these competitions, to spot and load, to ref, to travel for, either just covering travel expenses or still time associated with that. Like it's a lot of stuff. It wouldn't happen without those people. And I absolutely acknowledge that. But I guess where I would be frustrated here is that I have had kind of a unique experience or an interesting timeline within USA powerlifting. I came around when the most popular figures were guys like Lane Norton or whoever, these idols, and Jesse Norris, like some of these other people. But Raw Nationals was like much, much smaller. It was still a big event, but the level of competitiveness there was just not it. Like the 93s at that point were winning with like an 800 kilo total. I mean, the totals are like 10% higher potentially at times now than what they were. This was like 6 years ago, something like that. I don't, but like in that time, stuff has changed a lot. And I think that a huge part of this has been the pros. And even like Russell Orhe is probably a really good example of somebody like this that comes into the sport. He came in probably a year or two after I did, got really good, has a big presence online. And like, what has that one person's impact been on the growth as powerlifting as a whole? And I mean, like whether you like or, Russell, like it doesn't matter, right? Like it's just that person has driven the growth of the sport, and that rising tide, all the ships are raised because of the presence of people like that. And my frustration personally was that I think I deliver a lot of value, and that like somebody like me is an asset. And I'm talking about myself, but I would say this about all the other pros essentially, that a lot of them are the coaches that you look up to, or like the athletes that are driving the sport forward. And like all of this stuff, like these are the people that almost everybody watching this video, like that people are aspiring to, and why people choose USA Powerlifting or have gotten into powerlifting in the first place. And like my role, while I don't volunteer regularly at meets, or I'm not a referee and I don't do those things that are critical to the infrastructure of powerlifting, I make a lot of content that is specifically for people getting into powerlifting. And like, I've always, here's a big USA Powerlifting banner and all this stuff. I've always been a huge fan of USA Powerlifting, except like when I'm critical of things that I think are kind of slowing down the progress of the sport and getting in the way of growth. And I think specifically on the raw side is where raw and open, right? Like that's the primetime stuff. That's where the attention is. And so I was pretty frustrated with the way that USA Powerlifting is clearly, the vision for USA Powerlifting has basically said, we're not interested in the top level people. We're not interested in kind of like that level exposure. And we're going to create systems that are more in place for lower level, but like local level competitors, and potentially older masters competitors and those kind of things. It's kind of like, we're not going to care about the top level and we're going to invest in the other stuff. Fine, right? Like if that's the direction that USAPL wants to go with it, then that's their choice, right? But the top level people will leave. And as there is more incentive, as there's more infrastructure, as there's more local level competitions with Powerlifting America and all of that, you're going to lose more and more. And so I feel like it's incredibly short-sighted for USA Powerlifting is to say, we don't care about the pros. They don't assist our powerlifting culture the way that we want it to be. They're not loyal to us. Loyalty is a two-way street, right? For me to be loyal to USA Powerlifting, I need to feel like I'm getting something in return from that. And me, the product that I need to be offered, right, is exposure, right? If I'm trying to compete at a high level, I need competition, I need exposure, I need like a route to actually have that stuff happen. And USA Powerlifting seems to be moving in the wrong direction away from that. So all that stuff, all those comments and my frustration with USA Powerlifting happened like right before the Arnold. When the Arnold happened, it was like a week before, maybe a week or two before Powerlifting American Nationals, which is a much smaller meet. The depth is not there quite as much in Powerlifting American Nationals. The best lifters are there, but weight class battles were like 2 or 3 deep, right? We kind of knew most of the time who the winners were going to be, or it's going to be 1 or 2 people. But the big deal with that is that those people are trying to get to Worlds, and Worlds to Sheffield, right? But like, there's competition along that route, but it's the best lifters that are there. The Arnold had probably deeper competition There should have been a lot of hype around the Arnold. And it was shocking to me how bad USA Powerlifting's media presence was after that competition. They weren't posting like anything online. Just the exposure, what they were doing to represent their sport and their lifters was like just terrible. Like I was there. I was like seeing stuff. It should have been way better. And then like a week or two later, I watched Powerlifting American Nationals, and essentially by SBD's manpower, it looked so great. After every single win, there was like, within a couple of minutes, a reel, posts about these people that now going to Worlds, whatever. And like a whole lot of really, really good, high quality media stuff, making that meet that was significantly smaller with much less depth and all that seem like the place to be. Just looking at SBD's page, it's so much better. Like they are doing stuff promoting the athletes and promoting the sport that just USA Powerlifting is not able to do or unwilling to do. It's really, really frustrating seeing those two things, being at the big hype event, seeing and knowing kind of how small the other one was, and the other one just looked so much better. So as an up and coming lifter, if you're somebody who's like, getting to the top level, you're somebody who like wants to come and beat me or whatever, there's exposure, there's the ability for you to grow your brand and turn powerlifting into like a real thing in Powerlifting America that I don't, like if you were to go and win Raw Nationals, I don't have any faith that the exposure that USA Powerlifting would offer you from that big achievement. It would be a big achievement to go and win that meet. The exposure that you would get from that would just not be the same. And increasingly as USA Powerlifting has kind of like not been as willing to work with SBD, that has declined a ton. I've mentioned it before that like I have a lot more loyalty because SBD has worked great with me and they've given me reasons to be loyal to SBD. But SBD is clearly representing why people kind of should be on that team, and whether you're with SBD or not, the media stuff, just all around the hype that is available in Powerlifting America stuff is so much better. And they're putting together even the Raleigh meet that's not World, right? It's like a bunch of other very good lifters that are going to go and have a cash payout and all that. But it's more competition. It's just a local meet that SBD has set up that is going to generate a lot of hype for lifters and in Powerlifting America. And it's like, it's great. It's great to see. And it's so frustrating to see that USA Powerlifting had all these people and basically decided that they don't care. They don't care about the top people, and in a lot of ways probably like didn't want the top people because we complain about some of this stuff. Like while we're actively trying to grow the sport, we're getting stuff that's pushed back against us and being told like, good riddance because you're not loyal enough, you don't help on those levels, when like it's my full-time job. Like it's absolutely what I do, coaching lifters, making free content for lots of people to be able to get better. And I've always promoted USA Powerlifting. It's frustrating. So I guess I don't want my comments that I made online to make it feel like I was dismissing the importance of the people who work those things. I just wish that there was more, acknowledgement, more, pressure for the top end, the higher up people, the people making the decisions, to know that the reason that the growth has come was because of people like me, people like Russell, these popular pro people who you're not interested in keeping, that pushing those people out like impacts the other people. And so top to bottom, it's an issue. And I guess that's where I see it. So I'm like frustrated with the people at the top. But anyway, and then right after the Arnold, they announced the Pro Series money for next year. Like, we added more money to the Pro Series. There's less money in Raw and there's more money in Master stuff and Equip stuff and like all the stuff that basically they said they would do. I don't know how many people watching this care about propping up Masters Equipped bench only stuff, but that's where the money went. The extra money went into those things and they took it away from Raw stuff. And so if you're a local level lifter, if you're, somebody aspiring, at the local level, USA Powerlifting probably has a pretty good presence for you right now as you get better. But I would, expect over the coming years for that stuff to change. And if you're looking for exposure, if you're looking for the most competition, the best place to be, I think that Powerlifting America and SBD is really growing that stuff and just like allowing for, a lot of presence and top end stuff and promotional stuff and all of that for everybody. And so that's I think my frustration with USA Powerlifting. So, I'm out after this year for sure. I'm giving myself time to be healthy. I don't have a meet on the books, and I'll kind of get going when I'm ready. But I'm super motivated. Like, I'm super motivated. It's like a little frustrating to have. I'm less frustrated than I think people would expect with this injury, because I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling motivated to train. It's good timing. Personal life stuff right now, like my year is going to be a little tumultuous. But I'm like as motivated as I've ever been to like be good, and be competitive again. And I have this little thing, but when I get past it, like I clearly can be very, very strong. So, I'm working the process. It's been more months than I expected it to be, but I'm getting better and I'm getting closer, and I don't have a timeline on it. So I'm just, kind of comfortable allowing myself to take my time, but I feel pretty close to the stuff that I really want to do. But I'm excited to move over to Powerlifting America and kind of start that new. It's cool, I think, to have the drive, I guess, to have kind of that upper end trajectory, and all that stuff. So maybe as a like a final kind of closing thought in this rant here is, I think at times, like within the stuff that I said, some of the backlash or whatever, like directed towards the top competitors is like around money sometimes. And like I get asked too, is like, do you think people are going to Powerlifting America for the money? Yes. Yes, I do. Money or the competition. Those are the same thing to me. Like anybody that says that like people chasing money is a bad thing. Like every pro sport that has the best athletes in the world are getting, like, they're there because of the money. That if you're a young, I don't know, athlete, whatever, American sports, baseball, football, whatever, basketball, you're aware your whole life, that if you get extremely good at this thing, that there's money for you there. And that's a big reward. It changes your life, whatever. But that also draws other people wanting that, and it draws competition. And so like the people that are getting there, the people that like this money, the big money, Sheffield or whatever is going to, are people that are truly inspiring for the sport. And the people that the money itself getting big enough to like change things for some athletes will make the sport grow. And I think we've seen that as more money and as more people have gotten into it. And even just like people being able to make money off of social media or whatever. That stuff is making you better. As you see other people getting better, that drives you up. I've used the analogy of the 4-minute mile before, that is like it took all of human history to do it, and then like one guy does it, and then like immediately lots of people are able to do it. And like those things are so real that these big meets with more money and people choosing that they want money, I think is super good. It is super good for the sport. It's amazing that there's companies that are like actually investing in this and kind of setting themselves apart in that way. And it's like great to see. And I get personally, I get really, really frustrated when there's a criticism of athletes because they're not humble enough or because they're like choosing money. Like that is the sport. Like you being as competitive as you can, like to reach the highest level, other people are going to be going that direction. So you're finding competitiveness when you find those avenues there. And asking athletes, professional athletes, or like the best lifters, the best anything in any field or whatever, to be more humble is like the dumbest thing that anybody could say to an athlete. I see like Russell's posts, he's like, we'll say cocky, right? Like, cocky and flamboyant and stuff. And I see it like on his, Instagram and stuff. It's like people are like, oh, I just wish you were more humble. People say it to me on the other way, more often than not, that like they appreciate my humility. And I think a lot of times like where people hear me speaking, it's like from a coaching perspective. But like as an athlete, I am not humble. I like absolutely not. And I would doubt almost any athlete that you perceive as being humble in that way, like really is. Like for you to get to the highest level, you have to have self-belief is so, it's at the core of performance on this level. Self-belief and arrogance, cockiness, like all of those things are outward representations of it. If you are asking an athlete to not be that way, it's insecurity from your perspective. Like everyone should be more cocky and confident in the way that they're representing themselves. And I now that I'm back in like a public space again, training at Rise, I've been more aware of it. Like I hear more conversations about certain athletes like not being nice in person or whatever. But like most of the time when you're interacting with these athletes, if you see them in the gym, like they're in a public space, like they're trying to work. They're trying to train for their thing to be the best ever. And like they don't always have the time to like engage the level. Like if I'm super focused, got my headphones in and like, about to do my 700-pound squat and somebody's like, oh, hey, good to meet you. I'll try to like respect that person as a person. But at the same time, like we don't always have the time and the mental energy to be on and like be public for people, and that us doing what we need to do to find that motivation and confidence and self-belief. And sometimes it comes out as like aggression or arrogance, like those kind of, like that's what makes people good. So kind of those two things together, I think we're seeing maybe more of, right? Is money, right? Money being available for like, top level people and all of that, and it's driving the sport. Everybody's getting better because of it. But like at the same time, all that stuff is happening because there's more personalities, there's better lifters, there's people that are more confident, there's people that are like willing to express themselves more, and like that stuff grows the sport. And so when USA Powerlifting or whoever is like critical of pros, pushing for more money or pushing for this stuff, it's like because we see what's available, we see where this stuff can go, and are frustrated when the decisions kind of push against that. And, at the same time, like whoever, right? Like wants to have that path to achieve like the best thing that's possible kind of currently within the sport. And USA Powerlifting has moved against that and kind of said, we don't care. We don't want you guys. We're not interested in the things that you think are valuable to us. Other people feel differently, and like that's where we're seeing some of this amazing growth, in the sport. I think SBD, I'm biased, but I think SBD has been such a huge driver in that, like with media and money, and like all their athletes are the best, and it's crazy, and it's really cool, and I want to align myself that way. I'm incredibly motivated right now. I'm pretty annoyed with USA Powerlifting and maybe said some things that I didn't totally mean, and that's where we are right now. So anyway, that's my update, I guess, on where things are. Is I'm not fully healthy. I'm very motivated to train hard. I'm training as hard as I can. I want to be back. I want to chase this stuff. I want to chase the money. I want to be called cocky, whatever. And I think that's my update. So I appreciate you guys, supporting me on kind of both levels here. I think even videos like this kind of show different, personalities for me, right? Like I think this is athlete David talking, and the way that I view the sport from that level. And then, Coach David is maybe thinks about these things, a little bit more objective, try to be balanced and all of that. But yeah, viewing it this, currently the powerlifting landscape as an athlete. And like, to be honest, powerlifting's in a great spot. Like I see people sometimes now, like, I don't know, the powerlifting world's in shambles. It's not. Like, it's great. There's a lot of growth happening and it's looking really good. Hopefully Article 14 will go away and Powerlifting in America and USA Powerlifting will be able to overlap more. That'd be good for everybody. But currently, I'm on team SBD, but I guess that aligns me with Powerlifting America more right now. So hopefully I would encourage people, if you have ability, if you're somebody who does have access to be able to get into Powerlifting America and it fits your trajectory, I think that's where the growth is. And that's their vision, probably more alliance with the vision of growth for the top end overall. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, more coaching stuff coming soon. Hopefully more training stuff, on the way too, as I get more healthy. But anyway, we'll see you next time.